I don't even know where to begin with this one. The entire vision and goal of this series is to highlight a mostly derided platform and try to give a positive perspective on its library. But sometimes, even Jesus Christ himself can't perform miracles. Bram Stoker's Dracula is another title that was only released in North America, well, and also Brazil. It was developed by Psygnosis and then published in 1993 by Sony ImageSoft, who by this point were showing a decent library of releases on the Sega CD platform. Although this game is almost universally panned by every source, there are actually a few positive things I will note, but more on that later. I've only seen the movie this is based on once, and that was literally 20 years ago, so I'm kind of foggy on the details of how closely this follows the movie. The game has some dude at a fireplace narrating the events as they unfold, and there are FMV clips from the movie that help further drive the narrative. The game is set in 7 stages: the journey to Castle Dracula, the search for Dracula, into the dungeons, the grounds of Hillingham House, arrival at Carfax Abbey, the chase to the castle, and the final confrontation. The levels are mostly similar. The chase level is the only one that is entirely different from all the others, and each stage ends with a final boss to fight. The first boss is lightning, so that already gives you an idea of what we are working with here. This game also has no options or settings of any kind, and no save features as well, so good luck. You're gonna need it. Let's talk about some positives first. As for the audio, much like Sewer Shark, majority of the in-game music is produced by the Genesis sound chip, composed by Mike Clark, who also did the music for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. His contribution cannot be understated, possibly the most standout element of the entire experience. The sound chip audio is actually some of the coolest Genesis music I've ever heard. The entire time I was playing, I was like, that can't be Redbook. That has to be a chip. But that is a really well crafted audio. Now there was also some Redbook audio in the game as well, but that was only used during the boss battles and at the title screen. It was decent enough, but just typical gothic organ and orchestra stuff. Nothing mind-blowing as from a writing standpoint, but that sound chip music is on a whole other level. Graphically speaking, this is kind of an interesting title. It reminds me somewhat of Phantasmagoria. All the human sprites are digitized characters of live-action actors. However, they're not the actors from the film. They are some randos that Psygnosis hired to portray characters from the film. But at 240p on a CRT in 1994, who would notice? Props for the use of clips from film and FMV sprinkled throughout. Unfortunately, the video quality is beyond atrocious, possibly the worst quality FMV I've ever seen. The backgrounds seemed like they were fully rendered 3D models because late game there were a few moments when you would rotate, and the level design maintained its perspective and ratio through the rotation. Can't say I've ever seen this kind of a transition in a 16-bit side-scroller. I also thought the horse riding level was interesting, but I don't know if I had Super Saiyan reflexes or what, but I went through the entire level unscathed. Battletoads, this is not. Now with that said, let's talk about the more egregious offenses this game puts forward. Why the heck am I waging war against Mother Nature in this game? 90% of the total enemy count are either bugs or animals. It's just the most bizarre idea ever that I'm a vampire hunter, I'm gonna be attacked by owls, rats, or whatever. And I've already shown off earlier, but the collision detection in this game is trash. After several attempts at trying to traverse the rocks in the swamp, I just said screw it and walked across. And let's not forget the fact that I lost like 5 freaking lives just simply trying to cross the bridge. Since I was using the initial release disc for this recording, I was hit with a game freezing bug on the boss for the 3rd level. So I had to restart and start all over again. I've read that the double release set with Frankenstein, however, is a revised version that minimizes these issues. The controls are rather clunky, but the game is extremely demanding of your positional awareness. So there may be situations where enemies are coming from left, right, and above. Well, guess what? You're having L for dinner tonight, because you can't hit all of them at the same time. And even more obnoxious, the rats require a regular kick, but you can only execute that from a standing still position. So if you're walking, it's a high kick, which goes over the rats. And if you have rats or snakes on both sides, again, you're taking an L. It's a nitpick, but I thought it was peculiar that the game itself is in widescreen, but the FMV cutscenes are taken from a full screen edit of the film, presumably the VHS version. The end sequence is the most anticlimactic thing I've ever seen before. I would say spoiler alert, but there's literally nothing spoiled. The game keeps track of a score, but for no reason at all. When you beat the game, you see the credits, and then that's it. You get back to the title screen, pointless and alone. Why do I get points? What is the reason for having points? I don't get it. At least with all this frustration of mine, there is a 99 lives code that you can put in. For my calculations, for a game that gives you 15 lives to complete, it took me 60 lives to get through. Even though there are cool elements in this game, if you've watched this video so far, you've seen them all. You've heard them all. If you're wanting to experience Bram Stoker's Dracula in all of its splendor, your time would be better served just watching the movie in 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, and in the meantime, let's mourn the idea of what could have been if this game had been pursued as a fully involved FMV choose-your-own-adventure game a la Wirehead.